Ryan Schwab of Schwab Digital, and today I want to talk about the clippers in Gold Clip. There's 3 different clippers in Gold Clip: modern, classic, and hard. They can be described as soft, medium, and hard knee, but they're much more complex than that. They have noise, they have grit, they have a lot of analog character. These are not made as purely digital clipping devices. They are somewhat unique in the way that they were designed. I'm going to show you some examples, let you hear them, and then also discuss how you can use Gold Clip with the clipper off, which turns it into a very inspiring style of compression when you get to use gold in complement with the clipper off. So let's just get started and listen to some music. And so what you can see first is this input, this gray, is the input signal plus the threshold gain, right? If I drop this down, those are going to go way up, but we don't want to do that. Like, we want to have this is about 2 dB above and going down to about 3 dB below. But this is actually not showing us clipping only, it's also showing us the gold processing, right? Because gold processing has Unity on. If I turn Unity off, it'll show us just the clipping, right? So right now with Unity off, the signal is right up to the clip point, right? Now when I turn Unity on, what happens is it pulls that signal down equal to however much gold processing added. This is the most mindfuckery plugin ever, and I apologize for making it this way, but what this means is that it's adding nonlinear gain with gold processing, and then it's taking away that gain with linear gain, right? And so the outcome is that the peaks are lower, but the perceived volume is even. I know. Let's just listen to it. Bypass. So what this is telling us, peaks are at +2 and our output peaks are at -3. So we have 5 dB of gain changes to the peak, right? The peaks are 5 dB lower, but the perceived volume when I push bypass and unbypass is about the same. Pretty wild, right? Now if I want to fuck it up. Put the bass in. So what I'm doing with this bass is something different. I'm using Gold Clip as a distortion box, clipping it sort of, not a lot of clipping, but using a lot of like gold processing, which it's already a limited bass. And so what that's it's a bass with no dynamics essentially. So that gold processing is going to cause distortion because the signal's already at peaked level. And then I'm just blending it in with the parallel mixer over here. So then bypass and unbypass, you're going to hear like a little bit more fuzz and grit and like articulation of the notes. Now let's go to the music, and what's happening here that is interesting is I'm using the clipper off. And in this situation, when the clipper's off, this clip ceiling turns gray. This clip ceiling needle turns gray. It's out of the picture. It's not doing anything anymore. And now what's happening is only input gain and output gain are going to determine where the levels are. And so the goal here is to get the levels up to 0.0, but not over 0.0. If they go over 0.0, the needle's going to turn red. Let's watch that. Right? That's red. That's telling me that like I went over by 3.2 dB. And when don't have a clipper on, that's bad, right? We want to keep the signal below 0, which is somewhere around here. And what that does is now Gold and Alchemy processing are working without a clipper protecting them, right? And so we're trying to set the gain staging so that we can get the peaks up to the 0 level, but not over the 0 levels so that Golden Alchemy can work without any distortions from overs, because those algorithms expect a signal 0.0 or below. So what we're doing is just pushing it up, and then we're using this gold processing, which is compression. Now it's audio compression without attack and release. So what that's going to do is push the peaks down, because I have Unity on. It's going to push the peaks down, and it's going to pick up the lower level stuff. So it's basically audio compression now without attack and release, which is very difficult for us to hear, because normally when we hear compression, what we're hearing is changes in the envelope shape, most noticeably the attack. These are instantaneous attack and release, so there is no attack and release. We're only listening to the dynamic range reduction, which is much more difficult to hear, as I said. So you can see these peaks are down, and then these gold lines are getting filled up. So that means that the low level information is coming up, all right? Compression without consequence. Let's listen. So I set these all so that they're perfectly Unity pass-through, and so when I turn them on and off, they don't sound drastically different, but what's happening is the peaks are dropping by about like 3, 4, 5 dB in some cases, right? And so that change means that it's louder, but we're not actually making it louder to trick us, just like, oh, it sounds better. We're actually keeping it at the exact same level, and we're just reducing the dynamic range. Gold clip.